Hi, I'm Retired Guillory, Chairman of the Louisiana Republican Party. I'm excited to be here with you today. It's an exciting program we have going on in Louisiana, a minority outreach program that I think is going to change the way we have politics in Louisiana. It's going to change the idea of what it means to be a Republican, what it means to be a conservative. You know, we think the minority community should really take a hard look at the Republican Party. We have family values that are so important to all of us. You know, we believe in having a traditional family. We believe in having our kids and raising them and getting good education. Some of the things that we don't have today. We really have a poor educational system in Louisiana, and it's been dominated for the last 100 years or more by the Democrats, and yet they haven't done anything with that. In small business, free enterprise system, so many minorities want to be in their own business, their families have tried to start a business. We need to help them do a better job in having a good business. That's the things we'd like to do. We'd like to work with the minority community, and we have a great individual who's going to be our chairman of Minority Outreach, Senator Elbert Guillory. Elbert and I have been friends for many, many years. I can't even tell you how long we go back, and I know he's going to do an excellent job, and we're just excited to have him to give his time and talent and to work. And we're going to go throughout Louisiana and reach out into all the minority communities and tell them what I'm telling you today, that we would like you to be part of a change, a movement in Louisiana to make things better, make things for our family. Let's grow. We all have children and grandchildren. I have 4 grandkids that are here in Louisiana. I want them to stay in Louisiana if they have the desire to be here, not to have to move to get a job, not to have to move because they need to find work, not to have to move to get a good education, to stay in Louisiana and learn and be here and raise their family and make this such a productive state.
Senator Fred Mills, great servant of the public, comedian, banker, politician,
wearing too many hats, too many hats.
How do you keep so much hair?
I wish I had more hair. I'm gonna have to get me some hair regain or something. It's gone. When you get more hair growing in your ear and your nose, that's when it's trouble. That's when you're getting old.
Well, having worn a few hats, this is what happens. So I just want you to know.
I know, Senator.
You are in the middle of a very contentious legislative session.
Right.
What are the issues? What's so contentious about this?
Well, as you know from your years of service, it's money, 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 money. You know, and for right now, we have like about a week left of the session. And I think right now we'll be going into session over the weekend to talk about the budget. And that's, as you know, your years of service, it's going to be where are our priorities and what are we going to fund and what do we choose to fund and what do we choose maybe not to fund. And you know, when you put 144 of us together, as diverse as we are, it's going to cause some very unique debating.
Yes, it will. There are some people who want Louisiana to live within our means.
Right.
Are we going to be able to do that?
Yes, we will. Now, as you know, and you and I have talked many times about it because we've served so many years together, you know, we do have the sickest population in the United States. You know, we're first in per capita AIDS. We're first in the United States in adult obesity. We're 4th in child obesity. And if we don't get a handle on some of that stuff, we will bankrupt ourselves just from the medical piece. So you're right, we'll balance the budget, but will there be some priorities maybe not adhered to or funded? You know, to be continued.
Is there any stomach for cutting the number of universities that we have? As you know, we have 14 for a relatively small population in Louisiana, 14 four-year universities. And several of those are functioning at a very, 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 very low level, like a 3.2 graduation rate.
Yes. I don't think reality has totally set in yet on that issue. I think it's coming, Now, when, I don't know, but as you know, everybody protects their territory, and that's the number one priority is your regionalism. But I think that conversation is going to have to come. Even the delivery of higher education.
Yes.
You know, I have two nephews that they're getting almost everything online. You know, do we need the ivory towers built anymore?
Certainly not so many.
Exactly, exactly. So that discussion's coming, but it's not going to be this week.
You were speaking a moment ago about the health problems that we have. Medical marijuana
Right.
in some states is now used to treat illnesses.
Right.
Is medical marijuana coming to Louisiana? And if so, under what circumstances?
That's one of the most interesting topics. Years ago, I was the director of the Board of Pharmacy under Mike Foster. And I'd get calls in the 90s of where can I get medical marijuana. Did some research, and medical marijuana has been legal in Louisiana since the 70s. It was re-legalized again in the 90s. But never did we have a mechanism of how do you grow it, how do you prescribe it, how do you dispense it, how do you possess it? Because as you know, it's a Schedule I drug. So I did pass some legislation that put all the belts and suspenders on how to do it, and we're in the phase of starting to implement it. But very few people realize that marijuana has been legalized for medical use in Louisiana since the 70s. Where there was really kind of a hiccup in the legislation, if you could get it by hook or by crook, it was yours. No quantity limits, nothing. So I've had more attorneys, more people look at it, and they were kind of like, wow, there's a gap in the legislation. If somebody can get themselves 5 or 6 pounds of marijuana, and they had glaucoma, and they had a prescription, statewide, you were legal. Now, you weren't legal from the federal aspect of it, but so that's an interesting topic that you bring up. But can you imagine, since the 70s, the legislature enacted legislation and not unanimously, but almost unanimously passed to have that legalized.
That far back?
Yes.
We were a leader, actually.
We were cutting edge.
Well, if we do implement, so you said that we are approaching implementation.
Yes.
Who will be able to grow it, and how would it get from the grower to the sick person?
Yeah, what we did is, and I was truly the 144 legislators working together. I authored the bill, but there were a lot of cooks in the kitchen. The legislation now reads that Southern and LSU Ag Centers have the rights to grow it, cultivate it, market it, profit from that. And what they have right now as we speak, there's requests for proposals, and they're going to do public-private partnerships. And those public-private partnerships will inject the capital that's needed. That'll all take place. They're in the process of rewarding RFPs. Once they grow it, cultivate it, turn the oil into the medicinal form, there'll be 10 pharmacies in Louisiana that can open up to become Louisiana medical marijuana pharmacies. That was big with the law enforcement folks. There was a group saying 10 has that riverboat smell to it, that we don't want to limit the marketplace, but law enforcement said that they could better monitor it with just 10. So there'll be 10 pharmacies, and you can go to your physician with certain credentialing, and if your physician writes for certain disease states such as epilepsy, you just take that prescription to one of the 10 pharmacies, fill your prescription, and that will be grown and cultivated by either LSU or Southern. So it'll be truly a Louisiana product.
The 10 pharmacies, I take it that they're scattered across
It'll be
the state,
regional,
so-
correct. It'll be regional. The Board of Pharmacy will be going through that criteria. They've just finished the rulemaking process. And that rulemaking process is extremely cumbersome with a lot of background checks, a lot of credentialing. You know, you have to have the right credentials to get it. You know, can you have a criminal background record, that type of thing. And so all of it right now, I guess if we were playing football, we're about at the 50-yard line. And it should, hopefully in the next year, hopefully there's a product out there for people that need it. And it says in the legislation, it's for people with debilitating diseases.
I've heard some horror stories about children who have some serious diseases, and the oil, not the non-euphoric
Correct.
oil from marijuana can have a major impact, positive impact on their lives.
It's amazing. They testified, it's public record. There's a little girl, her last name is Hall. They came and they met me in my office at my place of business, and they said, we're leaving Louisiana because we used to live in Colorado. This little girl has epilepsy. She's on 17 medications right now. They testified on it in committee. Said, we're moving back to Colorado. Our family's going to be separated. My husband's going to continue working here. She was in my office. You could tell the little girl was not well. They sent me videos about a month later. She was on Charlotte's Web in Colorado. The little girl was rarely getting a seizure. She was getting hundreds a week. And they said, please, when it's available, please let me know. I've had families after families come and see me. And even for the people opposed to it, I tell them this story. I said, if it's you or your family member and you have a debilitating disease, there should be a conversation between your doctor and yourself. And I think if we can control that market and not turn this into a recreational piece, I think there's going to be a lot of comfort level with it.
I think so too.
But the unknown still scares people. It does scare some people.
You have an unusual ability to bridge gaps in the Senate. As many of you may not know, Fred and I served for many years together, and you are able to cross all kinds of lines and bring people together.
Oh, thank you.
What's the story? How do you do that?
I guess it's like all of us that run for office. I mean, first of all, if you run for office, something's got to be a little wrong with you. So we acknowledge that, huh, Senator?
Yes.
We love people. And I guess from just my years of being a pharmacist and working in a drugstore day in and day out, you see from all walks of life, you see from people, no one wants to see a pharmacist. No one says to themselves, I can't wait to fill my $60 prescription and go see this guy. So I guess it gave me a training that everybody walks through the door, they've got their story, and if you listen to their story, you realize that you learn a lot from them. So I hope what I've learned in life, that there's two sides to everything, and when you sit and you listen to that other person, you'll learn a lot more. But I think we're all want the same thing, it's just how we get there. So and you did that too when you were in the Senate. If we can sit and listen to both sides and come up with at least 80, 90% consensus, I think we can iron out the other 10%.
You use a lot of humor.
Right.
How did you come by this ability with humor?
You know, that's a good story. You're making me think of this. I guess I always had a comedic side to my dad had a lot. But when I first got out of pharmacy school, we opened a little drugstore in Parks, Mills Cashway Pharmacy. They came see me like my first year there, the Parks JCs. They said, you got to come. We're having a womanless pageant and we want you to compete. We had it at a place, and you'd know where that is. It was Pangay's nightclub in St. Martinville. Could heard of, St. Martinville. We'd have about 700 people a night in the show, and that would attend our performance. And it was one of the funniest things. So I had a chance to write humor and act. And I guess after that, the bug just hit me. And to me, what makes me laugh makes the happiest is when I can make people laugh. And I'll tell you a little funny story you'd love to hear. I had a chance to meet Dick Cheney and James Baker for supper one night at a camp. And as we all know, James Baker was the chief of staff to Ronald Reagan. So I said, Mr. Baker, I want to ask you one question. Tell me a Ronald Reagan story that's never been publicized. So he thought, he said, okay, I'll tell you one. He said, every cabinet meeting that we had every day, unless there was some kind of catastrophe, you were mandated to bring a joke to the meeting. He said it was for 15 minutes we had to tell a joke every day, and we laughed for 15 minutes straight. And we wait for Ronald Reagan because he was last. And he said we would wait because he was an actor. And he said, I will tell you to this day, his sense of humor was what got Gorbachev to cooperate with him, because Gorbachev would wait for his jokes. So I guess what you and I have both learned, if we can get people to laugh a little bit, I think it makes the dynamic of the relationship a little bit better.
T. Fred, you are an unusual man, comedian, philosopher, pharmacist, banker, senator, public servant, and friend.
Oh.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. And thank you for all your good work you've done.
Thank you.
Continue.
Today we're doing something that hasn't been done before. We are implementing what I call grassroots activism. We're out in the streets talking with people, and we have had some amazing conversations. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Hi,
How are you?
doing? I'm good.
May I have just a little bit of your time, please?
Okay.
Come on over to my table. Let me explain what we're doing here. I'm going to ask 3 questions. If your answer is yes, please put down a red card. If your answer is no, please put down a blue card. All right? These are the cards. First question is, if you had a child in a really bad, failing, violent public school, do you believe that it should be okay for you to take that child and the money that the state spends in that public school and send that child to a private school or to a charter school or any safe place where the child can be educated?
Absolutely.
The second question, do you believe that you should be able to own and use, if necessary, a gun to protect your life, your family, and your property?
That's another one I didn't really think too much about in years past. I used to have a child that lived with me in a previous marriage that we got to in gun cabinets and stuff, and didn't like to carry guns around the household. But now that I've seen things going on around the country and around the world, that people need to keep their house and their vehicle secure and their family, pets, and they should have some sort of weapon, a gun, to protect them.
All right.
I would agree with that now.
May I have a red card, please, sir?
Last one.
Every day, a large number of babies are aborted across this country.
Right.
About 1 million a year. Do you believe, 1 million a year, do you believe that there should be some restrictions on that abortion?
You're asking me if I'm pro-life.
No, not pro-life or pro-choice, anything like that. Just do you believe that with 1 million American babies being killed every year,
Right.
that there should be some restrictions, some
Regulations.
on that process?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah. It's a red card, right?
Yes, sir. I've asked you 3 questions.
Yeah.
You've given me 3 answers.
Yeah.
The answers that you've given indicate to me that your values are more consistent with the Republican Party.
Really?
Yes, sir. The Republican Party.
Oh, wow. Didn't see that coming. You learn something new every day.
The values of the Republican Party.
Oh, wow. I was born and raised on Democratic views and thoughts, and I never thought I would be.
This has been a great day. We've had a lot of fun and we have opened some eyes. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. This is the Louisiana GOP, coming soon to a neighborhood near you. Our guest today is Ursula Anderson from Lafayette. How are you, and welcome to the Elephant in the Room.
Thank you. I'm doing well. Thank you.
You are a black female Republican. Is that an easy thing to be?
No, it is not.
Tell us about some of the hits that you've taken, and I'm sure that you have, because all black Republicans take a lot of hits these days. Tell us about it.
Yes. Well, actually, I have taken several hits. Hits from my family members, hits from family or just people within the community. I've been called a traitor. Of course, I'm going against the grain. I don't identify with my black culture or black race since I choose to be a Republican.
Those slurs, are they hurtful to you?
At first, it was very hurtful, especially coming from family and close friends.
A lot of people see that we in the minority community, in the black community particularly, are very conservative. We're pro-life. We're pro-family, we're pro-work, we're pro-gun, pro-self-defense. That we share those values with the Republican Party, and those are not the values of the Democrat Party. How do you bridge that gap when you are talking with people, particularly those who like to give you those hits?
Well, actually, it's quite ironic that you brought that up. That's one of the things that members of the community or black members of the community can identify with, and that's actually something that I always bring up when communicating with members of the community, you know, who are Democrats. I inform them that we are very much pro-life. A lot of black members of the community don't identify or don't support the abortion industry.
Right.
Pastors do not support it. So basically, I inform them. One of the things that I always do when talking, because of course I don't like to push it on anyone, when we talk about the common beliefs that we have, I always tell them, I'll ask them, in your free time, why don't you research the platforms of both parties? And I always let them know that you will find that after conducting the research, that the beliefs that you share are more so aligned with the Republican Party.
Before I leave this topic, one more question on this subject. What's the one name that you've been called that stands out most to you?
I won't say it here.
The second then.
Traitor.
Traitor. Mine is foot shuffler. I don't know how that one came about, but I'm an ex-dancer, and so I always thought that kind of moving your feet around would be an attractive thing, but foot shuffler is one of the names that stands out most of those names that we can speak about on the air. That aside now, you've run for public office.
I have.
Tell us about that experience.
It was an amazing experience. I enjoyed every second of it. It gave me an opportunity to speak with members of the community, an opportunity to meet a lot of people. But more so, it gave me an opportunity to express the beliefs of the Republican Party, what the party stand for. Of course, I didn't want that to be the center of my campaign, but let's just face the reality. Especially when canvassing or I ran a grassroots campaign. So I knocked doors. And believe it or not, just about every door that I knocked on, I had to hear, but you're Republican. You're a Republican. But of course, we didn't want to center on that. I still wanted to stick with my platform and state some of the things that I would have done in the community. But at the same time, I still found myself talking about the platform of the Republican Party, our values, the beliefs.
What can we do to get all of our people beyond this issue of D's and R's, and Democrats and Republicans? What can we do to get to the issues of education, of safety, of jobs, the things that unite all Americans?
I think one of the things that we must do in the community is just educate people and just talk to them, as I stated earlier, about the platform, because most of them will identify with the platform. So education, because believe it or not, with my personal experience in speaking with people, when I would start stating the differences between the platforms, a lot of people would say, well, I didn't know that. And I said, okay, well, do you know that the Democrat Party is I identify them as a party of manipulation. You're complaining, about the welfare system. You're complaining about having to get up and go to work in the morning while your next door neighbor gets to stay home and sleep all day. You're complaining about the abortion rate that we have in our communities. So certain things that that certain members of the community will complain about, when actually that's all the platform of the Democrat Party. You actually go onto the polls and you pull in the lever for a party that you don't even believe in their core values. So I always ask them, that when you spare time, why don't you just look it up? And a lot of people will say, well, I didn't know that. I'm only a Democrat because my mother said that I had to be a Democrat, or my grandmother was a Democrat, or my entire family is a Democrat. Another thing that I experienced, another one of my experiences, there are some black people in the community who identifies with the platform of the party, but will not say anything because, of course, they don't want to endure the ridicule. They don't want to feel like they're going against the grain from the family members or their friends. So believe it or not, there are a lot of people within minority communities that actually identify with the core values of the party.
You were very successful in your run. I understand that you are going to run again for public office.
Probably so.
A number of people, well, I keep hearing it. A lot of people are saying that they want you to run. A lot of people who didn't understand the difference between D's and R's and focused on your republicanism as opposed to your values. Hopefully, this time, all of them will be with you.
Yes.
I wish you great luck in that run. I admire your courage. I have heard you speak. I wish that everyone could hear you at one of your presentations. Very eloquent, very powerful, very committed to our community. I thank you so much for being with us, Ursula Anderson.
Thank you. My pleasure.
And now, Moments in History with Thibaut Fontenot.
My name is Thibaut Fontenot. I got a cousin named Guillory. Oh, Guillory is a big politician. He's been in the Senate and everything like that, you know. He got a good friend, the Lieutenant Governor, Billy Nunn-Guest. He and Billy Nunn-Guest went somewhere. Billy Nunn-Guest told him, Guillory, if you use raw oyster, it'll help your performance. I went to Guillory's house on Friday night. Guillory sitting down there at the kitchen table. He got a big bowl of raw oyster in the front of him. He pulled one out, he looked at it, he pulled it, he put it back down. He pulled out another one. He looked at it, he stretched it, he inspected, he put it down. He do that 3, 4, 5 times. I said, Guillory, man, what you doing, Shaq? He said, Billy Nunn-Guest told me if I use these raw oysters, it'll help my performance. But I can't figure out how to put them on.